Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we're tackling an issue that's, well, not just critical, but genuinely heartbreaking for thousands of aspiring international students. We're talking about the unprecedented wave of Canadian student visa rejections in 2025. Now, for years, Canada has been seen as this beacon, for international education, promising world-class learning, a pathway to a bright future. But lately, that beacon seems to be, well, dimming, especially for students from India, who are facing a really alarming and, frankly, urgent situation. Our mission today is to dive deep into what's driving this massive policy shift. We'll explore its far-reaching impacts on individuals, on institutions, and most importantly, we want to equip you with some actionable strategies to help you navigate this new, pretty challenging landscape. We're here to break down this complex situation for you, make it clear, understandable, no matter how familiar you might be with the topic. Okay, let's unpack this. We've seen what can only be described as an unprecedented challenge, especially facing Indian students applying for Canadian student visas this year, 2025. The numbers are, quite frankly, shocking.
Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, they recorded rejection rates approaching an astounding 80%. Just think about that for a second. 8 out of 10 applicants are getting a no. That's the highest rejection rate in over a decade. And it's a profound wake-up call, isn't it? Demands our urgent attention.
It really is. That 80% rejection rate, the sheer magnitude of it is what demands our focus. I mean, to put that into perspective, this isn't just a minor bump in processing times or, a slight tweak to the criteria. No, this is a monumental shift. It directly impacts the dreams, the carefully laid plans, the entire futures of thousands of young people. For many students, and their families too, going to study in Canada is a huge investment. Deeply personal, significant, emotionally and financially. So such a high rejection rate. It means shattered aspirations, yes, but also really substantial financial burdens. It just underscores how critical it is to understand what's really driving this change. It's a crisis unfolding on a very human scale.
Absolutely. It's not just statistics. These are lives, futures being fundamentally altered. And this didn't just happen overnight, did it?
No, not at all. A shift like this, it's usually the result of, well, a confluence of factors, things happening inside Canada, and external things too, like global student movement. It points to a kind of systemic reevaluation within Canada about its capacity, its priorities for international students. And it also reflects how that global competition for talent is playing out right now.
So we've looked at the stark numbers, but what's truly driving this unprecedented shift?
Yeah.
Are there specific government policy changes or maybe evolving priorities within Canada itself that are sort of closing these doors? Here's where it gets really interesting. These surging rejection rates, they aren't happening in a vacuum. There are clear new pressures, regulatory shifts contributing to this. Let's dive into the why, starting with what looks like significantly stricter financial requirements.
Precisely. That's the most immediate, tangible change we've seen. The proof of funds requirement, it's been raised significantly. Historically, a student needed to show what? About CA $10,000 for living expenses, plus their first year's tuition. Now that living expense part alone, it's jumped to CA $20,635, and this is critical. Applicants are now being denied if they simply can't show they have enough funds. But, it's not just about having the money anymore. You have to provide detailed, credible, verifiable financial documents. Vague bank statements, maybe inconsistent transactions, incomplete proof, things that might have perhaps slipped through before, they just aren't sufficient now. It's the clear, undeniable tightening of financial scrutiny. Makes it much harder for many students to meet that bar.
Wow, that's a huge jump, basically doubling the required living funds and fast. But is there a worry here that such a high financial bar might accidentally exclude really qualified students, maybe from less wealthy backgrounds? Could that impact Canada's diversity goals, or even its ability to attract top talent from certain places?
That's a really important question. It definitely speaks to the trade-offs, doesn't it, with these kinds of policy decisions? The stated goal, of course, is to make sure students can actually support themselves, avoid hardship, not have to work crazy hours. But the practical outcome, yes, it creates a higher barrier to entry. And that could certainly affect diversity. It could make it financially impossible for talented people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to even apply, regardless of their academic merit. It's a complex balancing act for the government, trying to manage immigration flows, student welfare, while still trying to attract global talent.
So, proving you have the financial muscle is key. But it sounds like IRCC is looking beyond just the bank account now. They're scrutinizing the story you tell them. By your academic future, what exactly makes a stronger study plan now? And are there common mistakes students make in their documents, things they could maybe avoid?
Absolutely. Canada is definitely expecting a much more thorough, cohesive study plan. It's not just a formality now. It really needs to clearly spell out the student's academic and career path in detail. Show a well-thought-out reason for studying in Canada. They're looking for genuine temporary intent. When we talk about genuine intent, what we mean is showing the visa officer your main purpose for coming is education, and that you plan to follow the rules of your visa, including having a clear idea about your options after graduation. It's about convincing them you're not just using the study visa as like a direct shortcut to permanent residency without a solid academic and career plan. For instance, applying for some generic business diploma after you've got a specialized engineering degree. That might raise red flags now. Whereas, say, a master's in a related field, that would probably look like a natural next step. And on top of that, stronger language tests scores, IELTS, TOEFL, they're increasingly expected, plus various other supporting documents, things that reinforce your intent and your ties back home. Common pitfalls. Oh, things like generic study plans you find online, or failing to explain gaps in your studies, or not clearly connecting the program you chose to your past education or what you want to do career-wise. This increased scrutiny by IRCC, it's not just a feeling. It reflects a tougher interpretation of that genuine temporary intent. Visa officers often seem to be looking for stronger, more explicit ties to your home country now. Family, assets, job prospects back home. And a very clear, logical progression in your study plan, one that makes sense with future opportunities back home, not just focusing only on pathways within Canada.
Right, and beyond the individual application, it seems like there are also broader issues inside Canada playing a big role here, almost like an invisible hand guiding policy.
Indeed. And it's not just about crowded cities. It reflects a growing political tension within Canada, actually. Authorities are pointing to a mix of things, a widespread housing shortage, for one, and existing infrastructure constraints. These are key reasons they're citing for limiting international student numbers. And the housing issue, it's not simple. It's this complex mix of rapid population growth, not enough new building, maybe even speculation, pushing affordability out of reach for lots of Canadians. So the government is facing more pressure from local communities. People struggling with housing costs, strained public services. In Vancouver, Toronto, even smaller university towns, there's also this reported caution within Canada about expanding services and facilities fast enough. Things like public transport, healthcare, even classroom space. Can they do it quickly enough to handle a large influx of students without putting too much pressure on what's already there? The insight here, maybe, is the government's tricky balancing act. They're prioritizing immediate domestic concerns, responding to public unhappiness, even if it means sacrificing some of the long-term economic benefits from international talent. It signals a bit of a policy pivot. Managing social stability over maybe rapid growth in this sector raises questions about sustainable growth for immigration, really.
And finally, it looks like there's been a reduced intake overall, plus some shifting trends from the students themselves, creating a sort of mutual adjustment.
That's right. The data shows a significant drop, fewer Indian students admitted in 2024 compared to 2023. And what's also really noteworthy is this shift in preference. Among Indian students for Canada as a place to study, that preference has fallen quite a bit, from around 18% in 2022 down to about 9% in 2024. And this isn't just about Canada. It's a global thing. Students are always weighing their options. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these trends suggest a kind of mutual adjustment happening. Canada's capacity to host international students is being reevaluated, right? And at the same time, international student demand is reacting to these changes, maybe finding other places more appealing now under the new conditions. It's a dynamic market, global education.
So what does this all mean beyond just the visa application itself, the consequences of these high rejection rates? They're felt much more broadly, aren't they? Creating ripples across the globe. Let's start with a really profound impact on the students and their families, the individuals right at the heart of this crisis.
Oh, the costs are significant and multifaceted, really. You're talking substantial financial tolls, obviously, non-refundable visa fees, the expensive English tests, credential assessments, not to mention counseling costs, travel for biometrics or interviews, all the prep work. But it's not just financial, is it? There's a huge emotional toll, too. Imagine spending months, maybe years, getting ready, selling family assets, taking out loans, only to have those dreams crushed, the disappointment, the stress, the social pressure, and the lost opportunities when everything you planned just falls apart. It can be truly devastating. I remember hearing about one student sold family land to fund his application, only to get rejected. The money loss is huge, sure, but the crushing of that dream, that must be an even deeper burden. And for many, studying in Canada, it was that crucial first step towards maybe long-term immigration, a better career, work prospects abroad. These denials, they don't just stop a study plan. They disrupt critical long-term aspirations. forcing people, families, to completely rethink their futures, often at a significant personal cost.
It's truly heartbreaking when you hear stories like that. And these changes, they also have major ripple effects within Canada itself.
Right.
What are we seeing there? How's this impacting the country that's actually making these policy shifts?
Well, Canadian institutions and the economy are definitely feeling the pinch, no question. A reduced intake of international students, it directly hits universities, colleges, and a whole range of related service sectors. The international students, they're not just paying tuition. They contribute massively to local economies. Living expenses, housing, transport, entertainment, even working part-time jobs. Many institutions, especially some smaller colleges, have become really heavily reliant on international student tuition fees, which are often, 3 or 4 times higher than domestic fees. So a drop in their numbers, that means a significant financial hole for these places. Could lead to program cuts, fewer services, maybe even job losses. In education and the supporting sectors, it's a pretty substantial economic hit, and it echoes far beyond the campus gates.
And how is all this influencing student preferences globally? Is Canada risking its reputation as a top study destination?
It's particularly interesting, actually, how students are increasingly looking at alternatives. They're not just giving up on studying abroad, they're pivoting, actively exploring other options. Countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Australia, even places like South Korea, they're emerging as more attractive choices, often cited for maybe more favorable visa processes, specific scholarships, better post-study work options, or just a lower cost of living. Germany, for instance, offers tuition-free education in many public universities. The Netherlands has loads of great English-taught programs, transparent visa rules. So yeah, this really shows global competition for talent. And how Canada's policy shifts are directly influencing where students decide to go, pushing them to explore new horizons, and potentially, altering Canada's long-term competitive position in the global education market.
Okay, so given these tightened requirements, this shifting landscape, what can prospective students actually do to improve their chances in this new environment? Let's shift to proactive strategies, starting with enhancing your documentation. What should students really focus on?
Right. It's more crucial than ever. You need to prepare a strong, coherent study plan, one that clearly links your chosen course to your academic background, yes, but also your future career goals. It needs to be articulate, convincing, and, importantly, unique to you. Avoid those generic templates like the plague. Think of it like telling a compelling, logical story. Why this program in Canada? Why is it essential for your specific future? Beyond that, presenting complete, fully verified, and transparent financial statements and proofs. That's non-negotiable now. This means not just bank statements, often detailed affidavits, income proofs from sponsors, a clear paper trail showing where the funds came from. And finally, make sure your language scores, IELTS, TOEFL, whatever, are not just good enough, but competitive and absolutely up to date. Many places are looking for scores above the minimum now, especially with more competition. These details, they can really make or break an application that's being scrutinized so closely.
And planning your finances early. That seems like a major takeaway, especially with that CA $20,000 requirement we talked about. How practical is it for students to actually gather these funds, and what are the best ways to prove they're available?
Absolutely. With that proof of fund requirement now over CA $20,000 just for living expenses, plus tuition, students and families must plan well ahead. This isn't something you can rush at the last minute. It means having enough funds, not just for tuition and living, but also travel, health insurance, and a contingency fund. For unexpected costs, practical strategies, well, start a dedicated savings plan way in advance. Secure educational loans from reputable banks, making sure the documentation is clear. If funds are sponsored, make sure they come with clear affidavits and proof of the sponsor's income, verifiable proof. Ideally, the funds should be held in easily accessible accounts for a decent period. Show stability, not look like a sudden chunk of cash that just appeared before applying. Proactive, transparent financial management, that's key to meeting these tougher thresholds.
It also sounds like it might be very wise, maybe essential, to consider alternatives. Rather than pinning all hopes on just one country, what kind of research should a student be doing there?
That's very practical advice. Highly recommended right now. Don't put all your eggs in the Canada basket, so to speak. It's really important to research other countries, ones that might have more supportive policies right now, maybe a lower cost of living, or just more transparent visa processes. Look into places like Germany, maybe for that tuition-free angle. The Netherlands, for strong English programs. Australia and the UK, they still have robust international student sectors. Research their specific visa requirements, what the post-study work opportunities look like, potential pathways to permanent residency if that's a long-term goal for you. Diversifying your options, it can significantly reduce potential disappointment, and it might open up new opportunities you hadn't even considered. Keeps those international education dreams alive.
And in this rapidly changing environment, just staying informed seems absolutely paramount. What's the best way for students to keep up with all these dynamic changes?
Indeed. Canadian visa rules, international admissions, it's all incredibly fluid at the moment. You absolutely must keep up with the latest updates. Straight from the source, IRCC's official website, and reputable education advisories, too. Follow official government announcements. Consult trusted educational consultants who really specialize in these regions. Be very wary of unofficial forums or, outdated information floating around online. And this highlights a critical point, doesn't it? Vigilance, adaptability, being proactive about gathering information. These are paramount now. For anyone aiming to study internationally, the landscape is shifting constantly. Staying informed is your best defense, your most powerful tool, really. #tag outro.
So to briefly recap our discussion today, we've explored the significant rise in Canadian student visa rejections, particularly for Indian students. We identified key factors like much stricter financial requirements, more demanding documentation, that sharper focus on genuine temporary intent, as well as those domestic issues within Canada, the housing shortage, infrastructure constraints. We also looked at the broader impacts, didn't we? On students, their families, Canadian institutions, the economy, and we outlined some practical steps for prospective students to improve their chances or maybe consider alternatives. This has been, I think, a crucial deep dive into a rapidly evolving situation, offering some critical insights for anyone navigating this path of international education.
Indeed, understanding these shifts and sort of the why behind them, it's absolutely key to making informed decisions for your future. It allows you to adapt, to plan effectively.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and some clarity. All the best, and we will meet again with another important matter again.